Remember when milk bottles clinked on your doorstep before sunrise, and the phone on your wall was shared with 3 other families down the street? There was a time in Canada when these weren't quirks, they were just Tuesday morning. The 1950s gave us a country stitched together by rituals we barely noticed, flipping through the Simpson-Sears wish book at Christmas, catching the streetcar through snowy Montreal, or watching Dad wrestle with the wringer washer every Monday. Today, we're rolling back the decades to explore 20 forgotten things from 1950s Canada that vanished as quietly as they arrived. Whether you remember party line gossip, the Red Ensign flying over your schoolyard, or the iceman hauling blocks through the back door, you're about to feel that tug in your chest. Which piece of everyday 1950s life hit you hardest? Let's step back in time. Simpson-Sears wish book. Picture this. A November evening in 1955, and your family's huddled around the coffee table with a catalog the size of a phone book. The Simpson-Sears wish book wasn't just a shopping tool, it was the highlight of every kid's fall. Launched in 1953, this glossy doorstop brought department store magic straight to prairie farmhouses and maritime fishing villages. Families dog-eared pages, circled toys in pencil, and wrote letters to Santa with catalog numbers attached. Why did it disappear? Suburban shopping malls in the 60s offered instant gratification that mail order couldn't match. Then big box stores and TV commercials made flipping through hundreds of pages feel slow and old-fashioned. By the time the internet arrived, the wish book was already a fading memory. Eaton's downtown Christmas windows. Every December, families bundled up and headed downtown, not to shop, but to stand on cold sidewalks and press their noses to glass. Eaton's department stores created elaborate animated window displays that turned city blocks into winter wonderlands. Mechanical elves hammered toys, toy trains chugged through snowy villages, and Santa's workshop whirred to life under warm lights. These weren't just decorations, they were events. Parents planned evenings around them. Kids begged to go back for one more look. But as shopping shifted to suburban plazas in the 70s and 80s, downtown foot traffic dried up. Department stores cut budgets, and the grand tradition of window theater faded into photographs and grandparents' stories. Drive-in theaters. Summer nights in the 50s meant one thing: packing the car and heading to the drive-in. You'd roll up to a gravel lot studded with speaker posts, hang a chrome box on your window, and settle in for a double feature under the stars. Snack bars sold popcorn and pop between films, and teenagers treated the back rows like their own private lounges. Drive-ins couldn't survive the economics of urban sprawl. Land values skyrocketed, multiplex theaters offered year-round comfort, and Canada's short summer season meant owners struggled to turn a profit. Noise bylaws didn't help either. One by one, the big screens came down, and the lots became condos and parking plazas. Milk delivery in glass bottles. Before your fridge was stuffed with groceries, the milkman brought breakfast to your door. Every morning, glass bottles appeared in wire caddies on front steps, frosty, sealed with crimped foil caps, with a thick cream line floating on top. Some families paid with reusable metal tokens instead of cash, a small ritual that tied neighborhoods together. Supermarkets killed the milkman. As home refrigerators became standard and families started driving to massive grocery stores, the economics of daily deliveries collapsed. Packaging shifted to waxed cartons and plastic jugs, and the milkman's early morning route became a relic of a simpler time. Party line telephones. Imagine picking up your phone and hearing your neighbor's conversation mid-gossip. Party lines were shared telephone circuits, cost-effective but never private. Each household had a specific ring pattern. 2 short, 1 long, meant the call was for you. Rural and suburban families relied on party lines to stay connected when private service was too expensive. As telephone infrastructure expanded through the 60s, private lines became affordable and standard. Nobody missed eavesdropping neighbors or waiting for someone to hang up before making a call. Party lines disappeared quietly, replaced by the luxury of dialing without an audience. Montreal's streetcars. Montreal streets hummed with electric streetcars, cream and green trams gliding through winter slush and summer heat, connecting neighborhoods and defining the rhythm of city life. Commuters knew the routes by heart, and the clang of the bell was the soundtrack to downtown. The last run happened in 1959. Post-war urban planning favored buses and private cars. Ripping up streetcar tracks simplified road maintenance and fit the vision of a modern, car-friendly city. Montrealers mourned quietly, but progress rolled forward on rubber tires. Trans-Canada Airlines. Before it became Air Canada, the national carrier was Trans-Canada Airlines, flying gleaming Viscounts and super constellations across a country that felt impossibly vast. Stepping onto a TCA flight in the 50s was glamorous. Polished propellers, immaculate uniforms, and the pride of a young nation reaching coast to coast. The jet age demanded rebranding and modernization. TCA became Air Canada in 1965, shedding its propeller-era identity for sleeker jets and international ambitions. The name and look disappeared, but the mission, stitching Canada together by air, never changed. Telling and preparing this video took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the video. The Canadian in its original era. In 1955, Canadian Pacific launched the Canadian, a stainless steel luxury train with panoramic dome cars that turned the trip from Toronto to Vancouver into a rolling theater of mountains, forests, and prairie sky. It wasn't just transport, it was a showcase of the country itself, a mobile postcard where passengers sipped cocktails and watched Canada unfold. Economics eventually dimmed the shine. Route changes, restructuring, and shifting travel habits stripped the train of its original prestige. While the Canadian still runs today, the golden age romance of that first decade is long gone. The Canadian Red Ensign walk past any school or government building in the 50s, and you'd see the Red Ensign snapping in the wind, a red flag bearing the Union Jack and the Canadian coat of arms. It wasn't official, but it was everywhere, marking Canada's British heritage and wartime identity. The push for a distinctly Canadian symbol led to the Great Flag debate. When the maple leaf was adopted in 1965, the Red Ensign came down for good. The shift was emotional, dividing Canadians between tradition and a bold new identity. Now, the ensign lives in history books and heritage collections. 1954, Devil's Face. Banknotes. Pull out a crisp 1954 dollar bill and tilt it just right. Suddenly, the Queen's hair seemed to form a grinning devil's face. These devil's face notes became instant curiosities. Canadians whispered about the hidden image, and collectors started hoarding the early prints. The Bank of Canada wasn't amused. They revised the design, softening the portrait and removing the illusion. Older notes were pulled from circulation, and the devil's face became a quirky footnote in Canadian currency history. Canadian Tire money. In 1958, Canadian Tire invented a loyalty program that became a national institution. Tiny paper bills handed out at the register. Kids treated them like real currency, learning math by counting denominations. Parents stashed them in jars and glove compartments, redeeming them for tools and car parts. Retail modernization and digital rewards eventually pushed paper coupons aside, but Canadian Tire money hung on longer than anyone expected. Even today, older Canadians remember the thrill of getting a fistful of money with their oil change. Meteor and Monarch Ford dealerships in small-town Canada sold cars you couldn't find anywhere else, Meteors and Monarchs. These Canada-only brands filled gaps in Ford's lineup, letting dealers offer more price points and appeal to rural buyers who needed something between a Ford and a Mercury. Brand consolidation killed the experiment. As North American auto platforms standardized, there was no reason to maintain separate Canadian badges. Meteor and Monarch quietly disappeared, leaving behind a handful of hood ornaments in museum collections. Coal and oil home delivery. Winter mornings once meant the rumble of a coal truck backing up to your house. Soot-streaked deliverymen shoveled black chunks down metal chutes into basement bins, filling homes with dust and the acrid smell of fuel. Later, oil deliveries took over, long hoses snaking through side doors to feed basement tanks. Natural gas changed everything. Forced air furnaces, cleaner air standards, and the convenience of piped fuel ended the era of delivery trucks and dirty basements. The coal chute became a blocked-off relic, and oil tanks were ripped out during renovations. Wringer washers and Monday wash day Monday meant laundry, and laundry meant hauling wet clothes through a hand-cranked wringer attached to a tub washer. Backyards transformed into forests of white sheets and towels pegged to lines, flapping in the breeze like sails. The whole neighborhood knew it was Monday by the look of the yards. Automatic washers and electric dryers ended the ritual. Suburban bylaws started banning outdoor clotheslines, and the wringer washer became a dangerous antique. The Monday wash day rhythm disappeared, taking with it a weekly marker of domestic life. Ice boxes and the iceman before electric refrigerators, families kept food cold with delivered ice. The iceman arrived with tongs and a leather apron, hauling blocks into wooden or enamel ice boxes. Kids loved chasing the truck for chips of ice on hot days, and meltwater pans had to be emptied daily. Affordable electric fridges killed the trade almost overnight. Families didn't miss the mess or the daily deliveries. The Iceman became a nostalgic figure, remembered in stories and old photographs. 5 and dime lunch counters. Downtown Woolworth and Kresge stores had lunch counters where shoppers grabbed grilled cheese, root beer floats, and slices of pie on red vinyl stools. The counters smelled like coffee and fried onions, and they hummed with chatter from secretaries on break and retirees killing time. Suburban plazas and fast food chains drained customers away. When downtown retail collapsed, the lunch counters went with it. The chrome stools and Formica counters were auctioned off, and the social hub of the 5 and dime became a memory. School film strips and NFB reels classrooms went dark, and a 60mm projector clicked to life, casting dust-filled beams onto pull-down screens. The National Film Board supplied schools with reels about Canadian history, science experiments, and safety lessons. Kids loved the break from textbooks, even if the films were scratchy and dull. Videotapes, then DVDs, then digital files replaced the clunky projectors and film canisters. Teachers didn't miss threading film or the burned-out bulbs, but something was lost: the communal ritual of dimming the lights and watching stories flicker on a screen. Afternoon newspapers and paperboys. Evening editions hit the streets every afternoon, hawked by paperboys on corners and delivered by kids after school. Commuters grabbed late-day headlines on their way home, and the paper route was a rite of passage: canvas bags, ink-stained fingers, and porch collection on Saturdays. Television news and newspaper consolidation ended. The evening edition. Routes disappeared as delivery models changed, and the paperboy became a figure of nostalgia, memorialized in movies and old photographs. Returnable glass pop bottles. Corner stores stacked wooden crates of embossed glass pop bottles from floor to ceiling. Kids collected empties for deposit money, and every bottle had a story: returned, washed, refilled, and sold again. The clink of glass and the smell of sticky caps were part of summer. Centralized bottling, packaging shifts, and changing deposit programs killed the system. Plastic bottles and aluminum cans took over, and the wooden crates disappeared. The returnable glass bottle became a collector's item, a relic of a circular economy we abandoned. Rooftop TV aerials and CBC test patterns. Television arrived in Canada in 1952, and suddenly rooftops bristled with aerials aimed at local towers. Families gathered around small screens for snowy variety shows and Saturday night hockey. When programming ended, the test pattern appeared, a monochrome signal that stayed on until morning. Cable television made rooftop aerials obsolete, and 24-hour programming killed the test pattern. Digital infrastructure finished the job, turning those metal rigs into rusted sculptures and nostalgic symbols of early TV's communal magic. Which one hit you hardest? Milk tokens, drive-ins, or the lunch counter stool? Drop your memory in the comments below, and if you want more deep dives into Canadian nostalgia, hit subscribe. There's more nostalgia waiting. Thanks for watching.